welcome to another episode of Uninsured by Choice, the podcast where we help you navigate the healthcare system without insurance. I'm your host, Dan, and as always, we are brought to you by our sponsor, Zion Health Share, a nonprofit medical cost-sharing community. Today, we are joined by John Bishoff. John is a seasoned HR executive currently serving as the Chief People Officer at Canopy Mortgage, with over a decade of experience in organizational design, culture strategy, and leadership development. Outside of his day job, he's the founder of PathForge XP, using behavioral science and wilderness experiences to help driven fathers show up better at home. So, John, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dan. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So, why don't you just give us a brief history, career arc, kind of your experience in HR, where you've been, and a little bit about what you've done there.
So I have a degree in graduate studies in organizational behavior, and that kind of led me down a path to NICE in Contact. Started as an HR analyst and moved into an HR business partner role. NICE is a fairly large global company with about 7,000 employees, or at least that's what they had when I was there. And I was there for about 3 years and then got this opportunity to be here at Canopy Mortgage and take the head of HR role. And that's where I've been ever since.
So that's awesome. Being in HR, obviously with the podcast being Uninsured by Choice, we talk about health insurance. And health insurance is a very central component in a lot of HR departments for a lot of HR managers. I'm sure, correct me if I'm wrong, it's probably after the wages, the largest expense for employees. Is that a pretty accurate statement?
Yep. Employees are the most expensive line item, but benefits fall shortly right after.
They can get even more expensive. Obviously, you're usually looking for the most cost-effective options, but if you wanted to, you could spend enormous sums of money on the best comprehensive coverage plans available. And you've probably seen everything from the cheapest entry-level options all the way to those kind of Cadillac plans. Have you seen just all sorts of things and everything in between?
It's pretty amazing how much they're really trying to offer for our employees to get our employees health coverage. And I've always just been amazed at all of the different plans, all of the different options. To be honest, even for somebody that oversees it, it gets a little bit overwhelming.
And it's probably even just as hard on you to have to swim through all of that to say, okay, employees, here are the options we're presenting you. You know, that's a lot for the employee to handle, but you had to sort through them first just to narrow it down.
We have to look at what our budget really looks like, try to understand what are we trying to provide for our employees. And there's a lot that goes into it. One of the things that I've learned is as we've, when I first started, we were offering a really high deductible plan for our single employees, more or less, right? Our younger, healthier population. And they were only spending about, $10 a month for their benefits, right? Because we wanted to try to get a good population of healthy people. Over time, we've had to adapt and change. And this last year, we made some changes and made the plan a little bit more expensive for those people. And that was really hard for a lot of people that were used to getting a $10 a month insurance plan, and now they're paying $100, $150 a month, right? But that's kind of the cost overall. I mean, the costs just continue to go up. And there's a part of me that wonders, how can we provide benefits more effectively for our employees? Because there's just so much out there. I really want to provide meaningful benefits, stuff that our employees are going to use, and have them be affordable. But I think in today's economy, it's almost impossible. Every year, you're getting an increase. And it doesn't really matter what you try to do on the employer side to try to regulate those costs or to keep them down. They go up 15, 20, 30% increases. And now that we're self-funded, it's a little bit better. But we're still seeing increases every year, and it's really hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you've been in HR for a while. You've seen as little as $10 a month for an employee. What have you seen on the high end? How high are these costs starting to get for some people?
It's about $1,000 for a family a month right now.
And that's what you spend? And then are you at a 50% contribution for the employer? And then the employee has to...
It's a little bit different. It depends on which benefit plan our employees are on, but it's really at about $1,000 a month for an employee plus family. And that's the employee's contribution.
And that's their contribution. And then you're contributing on top of that.
We're contributing on top of that. And it's expensive. Our employees, right? Our families, especially those that maybe you're making a little bit less. It's a really hard for a lot of those employees.
That's more than my first mortgage. My first mortgage was $850 for our condo. It's I won't say how many years. You can see the gray in my hair now to probably guess. But it's it's crazy that the actual cost of the insurance is the employer contribution plus the employee contribution. And so the employees usually don't have insight into what the employer is spending. They just think, "Oh man, 1,000 is expensive." Hey, I got news for you. It's actually more than twice that amount probably.
Pretty
And
close.
and it's pretty wild how insane the cost has gotten over the years. Is that what you've seen then? It sounds like over the years, every year it's just gone up.
Every year we get an increase. And again, some of the increases have been 30%, 40%. And one of the reasons we went to self-funding is because every year we were trying to play a game with the insurance company. It's like, hey, we're going to go to market. Your current insurance provider they're going to give you a 45% increase, but this other provider, it'll be 15% or 20%. But then you have to kind of the expectation is you stick with them for a year, for a couple of years maybe, right? So that they can get some of their money back. But then at the end of the year too, then it's like, okay, well, now we're back on a 30, 40, 50% increase again. You're constantly switching insurance carriers to try to find the most affordable option because in a lot of ways, honestly, I think our employees, they just want consistency. They just want to know that they can go visit their doctor, their dentist, their optometrist. If they've got health problems, they want to know that the medication is going to get to them the way that it needs to be. They want the best options that they can have at the best price, but they don't really understand really what that cost looks like on our end and the challenges that we have to try to find something that's affordable for them. Because it's a game that goes back and forth between us, the broker, and the insurance.
Yeah, there's three parties. Well, four: employees, employers, broker, carrier. So it's very coordinated dance, if you will, of everyone kind of doing their part to make this work. And it seems kind of, well, what's the point? You mentioned that you went from fully insured to self-funded, and that saved you a little something. But you're still dealing with a lot of the same carriers and plan types, and maybe you find a way to save a little bit. You did mention that you switched brokers. Did that help at all? Did you find any access to new plans, or what was the expectation there?
What we were hoping for when we switched brokers was a little bit more clarity on the analytics piece. One of the things that we were struggling with our last broker was just the renewals. It seemed like we would push renewal all the way up to end of November, and then we were trying to rush to get the open enrollment put together, and I just didn't really love the way some of that was going. Our new broker says that they can get us better data and also will do renewals a lot sooner. This is the first, we've been with them now for 5 months, so I'll be curious to see what renewal time looks like. And I'll also be interested to see really what the data looks like on their end as they give us data. But I'll be honest, right now, I haven't seen a huge difference in the way from one broker to the other. I feel like as of right now, it's just something that's it's the same package, just slightly different, right? A different packaging, but it's the same inside. Options with benefits, with insurance, with dental, with our pharmacy. It's all the same.
Yeah, they're all selling the same products, the same plans, because they are state specific too. So whichever state you're located in, and this brings up another question. If you have remote employees in other states, that probably would make things even trickier because then what you would be limited in what you can offer. Is that something a bridge you guys have had to cross with employees in other states?
Yeah, for sure. We have 750 employees, and most of them are scattered across the country. So we're headquartered here in Utah, but we have people in Hawaii. We have people in Alaska. We have people in California, Florida, Alabama, Texas. We're everywhere but in New York. And, Hawaii has their own special regulations. So we have to follow Hawaii's regulations as far as benefits are concerned. And that's different than it is here in Utah, where we're central, where our corporate office is, right? And we have about 150 people, maybe 100, about 150 people probably here in Utah, but the rest of our company is spread out. So when we look at our benefits, we can't look at maybe what the best provider is for the Utah network. Everybody wants to be a part of a benefits plan that offers good insurance with these major providers. But just because you have intermountain healthcare and that's what you want here in Utah, it doesn't mean that plan that's best for us here in Utah is going to work for the people. It's something that you have to kind of work with and look at those national carriers and then provide benefits for that align as best as you can for the whole employee base, which is hard, right? You kind of in the end have to tell everybody what is covered, what they're going to do, and what it looks like, and sometimes you have to just almost look at the trends, right? It's really hard to provide one or meaningful insurance, I think, for some people because they have really specific needs, and though we try to cater to them as much as possible, it's still almost impossible to do.
Yeah, there's no one size fits all, but I feel like that's what the BUCA plans, the major carriers, national carriers, they just try the one size fits all and say, here's what it is. And it's grossly overpriced and it doesn't even really work the way you need it to or the way your employees need it to. And you're the one stuck having to sort through it all and figure it out. If an employee has a question on coverage, you're probably the first person they come to, I imagine. Do you get those questions a lot from employees?
Our team gets them for sure. And what we do, one of the things that I have noticed with our brokers, and both of them have been really good with this, is they have acted as partners for us. So if we get benefits questions, we will send them, copy our benefits team with our broker. And they do a really good job of answering any of the insurance questions that we can't answer right at a high level. When I was at NICE, we did all of that in-house. So we had, our benefits person was actually in-house. But here at Canopy, we use our broker a lot. We rely on our broker for a lot of insight to help us understand our utilization, to help our employees understand where they can go and what they can do, what options are available. And that is one thing that the broker has been really helpful for.
Yeah, I imagine that education piece is certainly, you have to learn it yourself in HR and then adequately be able to explain it to someone else. That's a tough ask. So having that broker in your corner probably helps a lot. And then it also helps that they can shop all the options. So I'm actually very curious now then, have either broker, did either one of them present any kind of non-insurance option? I know you're over 50 employees, so you have to have ACA compliant plans. So that would have to be a consideration, of course. But did you get any options like health sharing or indemnity or other type of not comprehensive care plans, or are they with an ICHRA idea or any of those kinds of things? Like just more alternative thinking.
From an alternative perspective, not really. I think that a lot of the brokers that we have dealt with in the past really focus on the traditional benefits, right? Where we offer the benefit plan to our employees. We give them this option. They check the box. What do they want during open enrollment? And that's what they get, right? They can't make changes during the year unless there's a life change, right? A life event, qualifying life event. But we get people that'll say, hey, I really want to have a baby at my house. Is that covered? Not really. Sorry, it's not. Or we want to do something that's a little bit of an alternative there. Can I do that? Sure, you can do that, but it's not covered, right? You got to pay for it. And so I think there's a lot of limitations there. And one of the biggest challenges that I've seen as we try to work with our employees is just giving them the education that they need to make wise decisions about their benefits. We run a pretty lean HR team, that's part of our organizational strategy, actually, not just to run a lean HR team, but to run a lean operations organization structure. It's part of our company strategy. It allows us to offer better rates to to our borrowers ultimately, right? But with that comes some challenges. And so one of the biggest struggles that I've seen is trying to really help our employees see all of the different options that are available to them from a benefits perspective, but then to utilize the low cost options, right? Don't just go to the emergency room for your benefits or for an emergency for something that's not emergent. But so often that's the default. Oh, I need to go get stitches. We're going to the ER. Well, no, let's use Instacare, or oh, let's use Teladoc. If you need a prescription written, use the Teladoc option that we have available for you. It'll save you time. It'll save you money. And ultimately, it'll save the company money when it comes time for renewal, and you money, right? Because our benefits won't be as much next year at renewal if we're looking for those lower cost options. But I think, the traditional plans of you pay your copay and you expect to have the doctor pay, you pay your $50 when you go to the doctor and then everything else is covered by insurance. Those days are kind of gone, but people are still kind of expecting that kind of benefit. Everything that we have is just that traditional their HSA plans basically. The deductibles, what's different. And getting our employees to think more strategically about their benefit cost and what they're using their HSA for. We do an HSA contribution, but I want them to take more responsibility for their benefits. And I think sometimes our employees still don't really quite understand what's available to them.
Yeah, that's the biggest chore, I think, is that you want them to have that responsibility, that ownership, if you will. But if they don't thoroughly understand what they've got, it's really hard to take that responsibility. And then you've got the problem of most all these insurance plans are next to impossible to explain and teach to the employees. So then how will they ever really know what they have? So it's a can get convoluted and difficult. So I'm curious, have you seen employees opt out of benefit? Just say, no, I don't want the plan. Is that becoming more common?
Yes, we've had a few people that have done that, or they'll look at the benefits that we offer and they'll switch to their spouse's benefit plan. But we've had, this year during the renewal, and I've had a few people come and talk to me. They're looking for kind of the non-traditional benefit plan, if you will, and they're finding things that are a lot more affordable, and it seems to fit their family lifestyle and their budget a lot better too. And so when that happens, I'm just like, well, this is kind of what we can offer, right? This is what we have. And so over the last little while, and even just as I was talking to our CEO the other day about this, and I think it's important for us to try to find alternatives as well as an organization to provide the best benefits possible for our employees. I think going back to it though, I think one of the biggest challenges is our employees needing to take control of their own health care and really manage the health care for themselves and figure out what works for me and my family, right? Diet, exercise, all of those things that are really important. We've tried to do different things in the past to motivate our employees to actually be more healthy. Wellness challenges, fitness challenges, walking challenges. Let's walk around the world. Let's do this. Let's do that. And that works for the population that's already trying to be active, right? But it doesn't, in the end, that the population that you're really concerned about, they're still not invested in that. And so I think one challenge, and I think it's this way across most organizations, is to get that population that isn't taking their health into consideration. They're not eating well. They're not exercising. They just want to go to the doctor and have the doctor write a script for X, Y, or Z. And prescriptions and medications totally have their place. I'm not dissing on that, but I think they're looking for a quick fix to their health problem. And so that's, I think, the biggest challenge going back to what kind of non-traditional offerings do we have. The more I learn about it, it seems like it's kind of putting a lot of the benefit, a lot of the onus onto the employee to understand what they need. And quite frankly, I don't know if some of our population is ready for that.
If you want to go a non-traditional route as an organization, you need buy-in. You've got to have the employees who say, yeah, you know what, the options you're providing, they're fine, they're decent, but they're a little expensive and don't quite work the way I want or need, or the network is often a problem. I want to see this doctor with this plan. I can't. They're out of network or something like that goes on. And so they need to understand what their needs are so they can present those to you. So you can go to the broker and say, hey, guess what you're doing is fine. We're a B minus, but we want to be an A plus benefits organization. And to do that, we need XYZ. Go shop that for us. Do you see that much from brokers where they're really looking into other alternative options or not even non-insurance options? Or is that just not really on the menu?
I haven't seen a whole lot of non-traditional options, but I haven't started really looking for them either. So I would assume, I would hope that some of the brokers out there do have some of those non-traditional options. And so I can't speak with a lot of authenticity on what that really looks like. If I look at from my perspective, I'm not seeing a lot. That doesn't mean there's not a lot, and I haven't been asking the right questions maybe. I think I'm seeing a little bit of creativity on the pharmacy side, and I think that's where a lot of the brokers, and even when we were going through the exercise of switching brokers, we talked to, I don't know, 5 or 6 major players in the Utah area, and even more nationally, and they were all really selling us on being self-funded, which we are, a PBM, and what that looks like, and how their PBM is going to be different because they're going to get medications from Canada. Their secret sauce was in their PBM and in their analytics platform. In the end, as I look at it, all the PBMs are still the same. Their analytics platforms are basically all the same, right? And so there's not really a whole lot of creativity on the broker side.
All the traditional options and insurance options do tend to be pretty similar. They might try to change one little thing or another, and the alternatives come in and usually will say, like health sharing memberships, for example, they say, we're trying a totally different approach. This is not insurance. It's a little bit more radical. We pair it with a MEC plan for ACA compliance, or if you're under 50, maybe a DPC membership. The DPC doctors generally have some sort of telehealth option where you can reach them at any time. And so you're getting these non-traditional approaches that are saving a lot of money. But like you said, adoption really relies on the people. And I think because for so long, the health plans and benefits and options and all the coverage that people are getting was so dominated by the employer that people just started thinking, that's just a part of employment. If I want insurance, I have to go get employed. They didn't even think they could get it on their own. And then it was just, it's the employer's problem. They get whatever. And I just take whatever they give me. I don't ask questions. I just know that I've got coverage. So I'm good. And they don't even understand much about what the coverage is or isn't, how much they pay. Getting them to really get invested in that. Have you seen any strategies that work? How can you kind of work with employees to be a little more invested in their benefits?
How do you get people to be invested really in anything? I don't really know if there's like the best a best approach to get people to take their benefits seriously or to learn more about their own wellness until they're confronted with that challenge that they really have. It's almost an existential crisis, right? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink adage, and you almost have to have people to have a crisis or a change of thought or change in mind for them to really take what we're trying to do to heart, to take their wellness into their own hands, or to make a change in their career or in their lifestyle. And you can present a lot of different options, right? We've tried, again, kind of going back, we've tried all different types of wellness: financial literacy, health, diet, growing gardens, all of that. We call them our Thrive series, and we did that for 2 years, and we would get out of our employee base maybe 15% participating in those consistently and meaningfully, right? So even when you're trying to do different things, different strategies, it just seemed like, at least from my perspective, it's really hard to get people really engaged until they have a need to change. And as soon as they have a need to change, then they've got a whole bunch of questions. But oftentimes it might be in July when they have all these questions and they're like, well, can I do this? Well, no, sorry, you have to wait till open enrollment right now. Oh, I do? Well, why? Because that's the way it is. That's the rule, right? I mean, you just kind of have to follow that. So that's what's hard.
to anyone listening right now, if you're an employee, we've got John here who sits in that HR seat. You all have your John at your organization or company, right? You're not going out and shopping for alternatives or doing a whole lot. You're letting the broker do a lot of this, unless you had 90% of the employees suddenly come up and say, hey, I want this and I want that, and it should cost this and it should cost that, and whatever it is, if they don't bring to your attention that they're not really satisfied with the benefit or that they're very interested in exploring alternatives, if they don't do that, then you're not exactly going out and saying, well, I better shop alternatives, I better find something else. You're just kind of saying, well, I don't hear a lot of negative because people aren't really invested in this. So I'm just going to assume it's working pretty well. Just kind of stay the course, that status quo, right?
As I've been listening to prepare for this podcast, it has gotten me thinking about alternatives and what kind of alternatives we can start to offer to our employees as an organization. What does that look like? What do the brokers offer from a non-traditional perspective that I can maybe start to try to help our employees understand a little bit more? But at the same time, if you really do want to have alternatives, in a company of 750 employees, if I've got one person that is asking for this, I would love to do that, but we can't cater to everybody. We kind of have to provide the best plan that fits most people in a company. But if most people want something a little bit different, then that is where we can actually have a bigger impact as well, right? And I think to all of listeners that are employees of an organization, talk to your HR team. If you want something that's alternative, figure it out. They may not be able to offer it, but the more vocal you are, and I mean vocal in a positive way. There's all these other factors behind the scenes that go into play when we make these decisions. Make recommendations, suggestions, ideas. And if you've got a great HR team, they'll listen to what you've got, and they'll probably keep track of what they're hearing, so that when it comes time for that benefits renewal, they can maybe make some different choices.
Yeah, I'd say if you are an employee and you are considering alternatives to insurance, the very first thing, the easiest win, is to talk to HR about direct primary care and DPC, because with the legislation change, those contributions can now be pre-tax, is my understanding. So an employer is a lot more likely to pay for your membership, and they are HSA eligible expenses now with the DPC. So the rules have been loosened a little bit around DPC to where employers and employer groups can really integrate that option. And it's so good on that wellness side that you were talking about of employees really taking control, because oftentimes you go to the doctor once a year, you get your checkup for 15 minutes and your physical or whatever. And then you just kind of off you go, and that's it. Your doctor barely even knows your name unless they see your chart before they walk in. But with the DPC doctors, it's so much different because of that membership base. You get more meaningful time with your doctor. You get to talk to them longer about any concerns or questions, and they can really work with you on a tailored plan. If you come to your broker and say, hey, look, I had 25 people this month come up to me and say, there's a DPC doctor in town we would love to be able to go see. Is there anything we can do there? And that broker will probably hit the ground running and say, awesome, I'm going to go figure this out, and say, hey, look what I found. We can offer DPC regionally to all your different employees through this mechanism or another. And that's probably a good place to start, I think.
The more they inform us on how they're doing and what really is going on, the better we can serve the employee base, right? You've got a real unique challenge in the HR space to provide something that's meaningful for our employees, yet try to manage cost. The more we can hear from our employees, the better, more feedback we have. I think the better decisions we can make. A lot of times, the most meaningful data is the data that we don't have, right? People that are really excited about something, they're going to let you know they're really excited. People that are really angry about something, they're going to let you know they're really angry. But it's a lot of times the people that are quiet, that silent middle, where you can actually get the best feedback from, because they're not super happy, right? They're not super angry. That's where the biggest change can come.
Yeah, be vocal. That's if anyone's going to take anything from this, meeting with an HR professional who sits in that seat, just be vocal, give the feedback. That's how they mine the insights. HR is looking for these kinds of things. So awesome conversation. I was super excited that we could reconnect and chat about this and help listeners just understand. So many of our listeners, I'm sure, think, oh, I'd love to go uninsured and direct care and direct pay and all these different kind of things, but I'm an employee and I'm stuck with my plan. You're not always stuck. You talk to HR and see what they can work out. And I think that's a great place to start. So if anyone wants to connect with you and ask any questions, maybe they listen to this and go, oh, I need to pick John's brain a little bit. Best way to reach out or connect, would it be LinkedIn? Just
hit me up on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to reach out. I've got a couple of different emails, but LinkedIn's probably the best way. I check that pretty consistently.
Perfect. All right. So if you want to ask John any other questions, hit him up on LinkedIn, or better yet, hit up your own HR person and start asking about your benefits and seeing if you can maybe move towards some alternatives that might work for you. So thanks again for joining us. Remember, you can always find us on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, and we'll see you next time.